me know if you have problems. Today is Wednesday, September 5th, 2018. What we'll cover today is we'll make sure that we review healthcare trends. We'll review the MU. What is MU? Meaningful use. We'll talk about, did we get everything?
Yeah.
Good, thank you so much. We'll talk about data. Remind me to set a quiz, and we're also going to have a guest speaker. Our guest speaker is Dr. Stephen Gerst. He's a accomplished MD, MBA, and his main focus is in the area of mergers and acquisitions on Wall Street of healthcare companies. So he does multi-million-dollar deals and wheels on companies. He's based here in South Florida. He's a colleague of mine, and I find him as an excellent resource. So we'll have a discussion with him, and he should be coming in around 7:30. So we'll finish our lecture part with it, and then we'll do, I call it kind of an open discussion with him. He'll share with us some of the latest trends that are happening, especially in terms, he's doing a lot in telemonitoring, telehealth. He's investing in a number of companies. I think now he's also helping companies with cannabis, you know, a number of companies doing that. And he's quite an interesting fellow here. And he also, I got him a position to teach in the nursing school for their health informatics seminar there, since I wasn't able to have time to spend. Okay, so questions before we begin. How are we doing? Everything we're plugging in there once a week. We're able to see how you're doing. And my freshmen were handling it, right? Yeah. That's the main thing, is to have a good attitude. And basically the idea is there are always going to be issues, but what do I want you to be able to do is to document them. We won't have all the answers. Document them and to be able to proceed. So let me just do a couple of housekeeping chores here. We're broadcasting, so we'll be able to review that as well. Let me go back to our Blackboard and let me just see if everybody's doing okay. What are the issues? Let me go to the audit area. And Deb, in the audit area, what's the difference between the audit area, BTE 450 audit, versus the regular introduction to health informatics? What's the biggest difference, Deb? We can review what you've learned, huh?
You can add members to your group to the
Because
audit.
why? Let's make it sophisticated here. Is what? When we're especially talking with health care systems and any systems, we talk about what we call role-based systems. And what does that mean, Deb? Do you have any idea?
Not really.
Who can help them? So who doesn't have a name tag? Get a name tag. There's yellow tags here. If you don't have them, get up and make yourself a name tag if you don't have them. And you have markers. Let's go. Who can help them? Yes. Your name?
Sean.
Sean, right. You're all the way back there. You're moving all the time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So see how it is back there.
So is it like a group of people with like different competencies that like are coming together to complete a larger task.
Right, but in information systems and in health information systems, what is the step for role-based? Let's think about ourselves. We're gonna look at a patient database. Right, Sean, stay with me. So if I have let's say your health record, Sean, what's the role? You as your own health record, what do you have rights as? You have full rights.
To
Do you have full rights to view? What does full rights mean? Who can tell me what full rights are in an information system? One is I can read the record, right? What else can I be able to do in a record?
edit it.
Edit it, meaning I can add, I can also modify, I can delete.
Send it to other people,
What?
send it to other people.
I can have abilities to send it off to everyone. I could delete a record. So, everybody follow me. Sean is a patient. What role does he play in the information system? What rights does he have?
Owner?
He's the, maybe he's the owner. Does he have, he's an owner, but what role does he can do? Can he delete? Can he edit? What do you think, Danny?
I think you can only view.
He can only view, and then maybe what he can do is he can possibly give permission for other people to view his record. Why doesn't he have permission to edit? Ricky was telling me maybe he owns that record. Why wouldn't he have the view to edit it?
He's not a physician,
What?
he's not a physician, he doesn't have like
Yeah, but what is the logic behind this? Do you understand, John? What's the logic behind, everybody understand the question? He has a record, right, with all of his information, right? His demographics, his information, any of the allergies he has, any of the symptoms that he presented, any of his history. Everybody understand what I'm asking? And somebody said he owns it, why can't he edit it? Why can't he delete it? Why can't he modify it?
because he's a patient.
And
He shouldn't
so,
be able to,
what?
he shouldn't be able to,
Why not?
because he doesn't work in the hospital.
Yeah, so,
He doesn't have full rights.
he doesn't have full rights, and why? Why, James?
Because that modifies the access to certain medications that he can have.
Right, all of a sudden I can say I have this type of disease, so I can get opioids, right? Right, I have, I can change it, I've gotten so many drugs, and I'll delete all the opioids that I ordered in the past. I'm 10 pounds more than I wanna be, why not just, all my pre-existing conditions, right? Get rid of those. Add some additional conditions, right? We wanna have what? Integrity in our records. We wanna be able to verify those records, right? And have integrity for those records. So, given that's the fact, Deb, and going back to you, we are basically looking at two separate systems in one platform called Blackboard, a learning management system. We have, for this class, for this course, our names are listed twice. One role is what, Deb? Student.
Student.
And what's the other role?
Instructor.
Instructor. It says, you remember when you look in Blackboard, what does it say? The courses you're teaching. Doesn't that say that? In your Blackboard, right? How many other courses are you teaching, Deb?
0.
0, right? So all of you should write to your, contact your parents and tell them, look how well I'm doing. I'm already teaching, right? The course. So, and what does that give you then the rights for? As instructor, what can you do? Sean, as instructor, what can you do in the audit area? What rights do you have?
You can add and create new content.
I can add and create new content. Can I add new users, Deb?
Yes, you
Can I remove users?
Yes, you can.
Can I delete data that's on here? Yes, I can, and can I add? So in that case, you have full rights. That's why in the audit area, when you upload your homeworks and everything, Sean, what should you do is you should back it up somewhere else, because inadvertently or intentionally, someone could delete your work, right? In your audit area. So you need to know that. That's why I'm telling you in some of the things, we're not doing it in those types of things where it needs to be, basically, it's public to everyone that's in this group. So that's where it needs to come to. So if I go to course documents, right, and I have Roy, Emily, and Emma, right, which is in the first row, right? When I go to web conferencing software, then I have then what do we see here? So somebody want to tell me? You guys?
Sure. What do you mean?
What have you done? You've done Zoom.
Yeah, we got 3 of them.
Okay, Zoom. What else?
Team viewer.
Team viewer. Okay.
And
Go to meeting.
Go to meeting. Okay.
Join me.
And join me. Excellent. Perfect. Everybody see that? They've done an excellent job. Now, which ones did you screencast?
We screencasted all of them, we each did one, and then
We all did one together.
Yeah,
And which one did you do together?
The top
Zoom.
one.
Zoom. Okay, so this one is together.
Uh-huh.
Okay, excellent. So in this case, excellent. I have no issues. And then you put the price, right?
The price? Okay.
Okay, so put the price, folks. This is an excellent demonstration. What we want to do is we want to learn from best practices, and we want to learn from each other. So just put, it's like we rehearsed it, right? Emma, like we rehearsed this, right? I took this group and they did an excellent job. They used the items, they put them in basically bullet points of the pros, the cons, and you want to highlight then the price. There's a lot of times there's a free version and there's a paid version. So make out a way in which it's easy to see if what are the limitations of the free version, like they say here, 40 minutes max, 100 minute capacity. And then in this case, you can see here, you may want to do the paid versions. They're saying 40 minutes isn't for an important meeting, 100 is not a lot for a big company. But you can start, for our group, it may be good enough, for doing our presentation. And the worst, if it's 40 minutes, you can maybe break it down to part 1, part 2. So after 40 minutes, take a break and do another one. This is the Zoom that you can see here. And then you can see here, Team Viewer. Roy, so what did you see in Team Viewer?
It was great.
Okay, and what was so good about it?
Just has all the capabilities you asked for.
Right, and you can see somebody else's screen. Basically, Team Viewer, you'll see that it's a standard in software programming. When somebody wants to install your software from remotely, they'll use Team Viewer.
You take control.
Right, they can take control, they can move around, and again, you give permission. So Sean, it's again that permission based, that I'm gonna give somebody permission in terms of roles to enter to my confidential space, and I'm giving them permission to take over. All right, so that's excellent. So make sure for each of your groups then, that you follow this format that you have. Do you have a name tag?
Oh, sorry, I don't.
So let's make one. So, folks, I don't need to repeat that again, right? So we got then the course documents here with group 1. Corey, Nico, and Ty, where are you? Okay, so what do we do in this case too? So we did Team Viewer. So what happened? So we gotta.
Well,
where's Nico?
we all did that one. Like,
Okay.
We're all on that video, like talking and everything.
Okay, so you have the pros, you have the price?
Well, it was the version we had was free.
Okay, so you wanna then talk about what are the versions, going back to what are the versions from the free and not, then you wanna you're on this then you wanna have all names on it. What I would do is I would go back and then review two more to see, sometimes in Team Viewer, we wanna have, a Team Viewer has some, disadvantages as well that we'll wanna be able to do that. Okay, so we'll go back the same way. Lauren, Fiona, and Daniel, what do we got? Are you here? Where are you? Okay, in the back, what's up? Zoom, and Fiona, what did you look at? I've never heard of that. Huh?
It's small, they said they only have 3,000 users.
Yeah, well, and then, but it's not free,
It's free for 14 days and then
then you have to pay. Okay, so what can you do versus the other one than Zoom? Is there any additions?
No, not really. It's all like same, like Zoom is,
Okay, so the idea is, so make it in terms of support then, and WebEx, right? The only problem with WebEx is it's a 30-day, so put in the pricing for WebEx as well, okay? And, of course, what do I have here? Lauren, and then, Faith, Lorna, and Sean, are you here? The whole group is gone? Lorna sent me something, but, that's not good, right? Okay, so, group 5, so what do we do?
We did, Zoom.
Zoom, okay,
I mean, our file that we have, we just, it was our group, we recorded it.
okay, so put, okay,
I mean, we recorded at the same time, and then we, just did like the pros and cons.
okay. So we got this, let me just make sure that I have it. So I have here, let's do a roll. Who has a sheet of paper? Emma, you have a sheet of paper?
Yeah, can you get one?
Do me a favor, make a roll. Put the course number on the very, very top, and the date. And then for the column headings, put first, last, for name, put email, phone, and the last one, put in WebC for web conferencing, and put if you updated it, yes or no, and make yourself Emma number 1.
Okay.
Okay, and then make sure that everybody numbers it, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and pass it around, and the last person here, Felipe, you wanna take a marker and mark your, name tag. Okay, so we got that, what else am I, missing? So Gabrielle, Kelly, and Danielle, where are you? Okay, so what do we got?
I did the Team Viewer one to start. We all did it together, so
Okay,
we like,
fine.
We did each one.
Okay,
So we did each one
and you did
together.
them all, and you also did them and you screencast them, or
But-
what?
yeah, we were
Using
like,
what?
oh, I used, Jing, and then had to go onto screencast.com to actually share it.
Okay,
Mine recorded like right in it.
okay, so put that in, did you put that in?
Yeah,
Yeah, mine
yeah.
did, yeah.
Okay, perfect, and did you put price?
Mine, I
Mine
have
was
costs on
free.
mine.
Okay, so make sure that you said.
Yeah.
Very good. Keep up the good work. Okay, let's go. Looks like you're working well together in a group. What's next? Cindy, James, and Elvia, where are we? Okay, do we have 2, 3?
Yes, go ahead.
2 out of 3. Okay, so this is, you just did then Zoom or what?
we each tried Zoom and we recorded together.
Okay, all right. And all 3 of you? Or there's 2 of you now?
Right, 2 of us now, but all 3 of us did the conference.
Oh, okay, so put your names there of who did it, okay? So you can go in now. When I give you, suggestions, fix it now. Don't waste your time, other times. Okay, William, Danielle, and Yami, where are we? Okay, what's going on? Huh?
I said, am I the only one that's here?
I don't know.
Oh, 'cause I was.
You know your group?
No, I don't know. No, I don't remember. I don't see them, so that's not that.
Okay, so is this yours?
That's not mine. But I was having scheduling issues with my classes, so I wasn't gonna take this class, and now I am, so it all got messed up. But I tried to contact them and they haven't replied, so I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so you never met with them?
I haven't been able to contact, I don't know what's going on with it.
Okay, not good, right? Not good at all. So what I suggest you do is, group 5 is John and Kaylee here. You may, at the end of the class, see them in the back in the corner.
Okay,
I suggest maybe see if they'll let you join their group,
okay,
and then you can get up and running,
okay.
rather than waiting,
Yeah,
because we only are here, okay? William, Daniel, and Yami, I'm done, right? So Sean, Deb, and Isaiah, what's up?
Oh, deal is, I didn't get the audit, I didn't know about the audit.
Okay, but we got it now.
Yeah.
Got it now, I'm gonna do it by tonight.
Okay, but you wanna work with your group,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you
yeah,
got
yeah.
them up,
Yeah, we got
okay?
Yep.
And
So,
did you do a group, the two of you, did you do a web conference or
we
separate?
did our own individual.
Okay, so
we're
then
gonna wait
do it
for-
3 for next week, have it 3.
Yep.
So- Got it?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so, what do we got? Liz, Kyle, and Monica, where are you? Okay, so what's up?
We were able to do all 3 of us on 2 of them.
You're able to do what?
Like have all 3 of us show up on 2 of them.
Okay, all right. Do we have prices? Yeah. So if not, put them in, okay? And then Chelsea and Ricky, are you just 2?
Yeah, the other one's
Okay.
dropped out.
What? The other one dropped out. Okay. So how we, so Roy, put your name down. So Danielle, also this group, right? Ricky, you wanna, and Chelsea, you wanna raise your hand? So these 2 also are 2 people that at the end, you decide, you take the initiative and place yourself there rather than waiting too long. Okay, so anything I need to know? How's it going?
Yeah, we're good. We got the 2 of us in a Zoom conference.
Okay, and how did it work out?
Oh, well, we uploaded, so Zoom gives us the option of downloading the video, the audio, and the chat separately, so I uploaded it on that.
Perfect. Okay, we're finished with this, so we can use it for our next assignment. We can use it more and more for them. Okay, let me go over a couple of points for you here. Meaningful use. What's the purpose? Who can tell me? Meaningful use. What does it mean and who cares? Give it back to me. Yes, Kelly.
Like having information available electronically, like records that are easy to use for both like the healthcare system, but also the patient, so like everyone kind of benefits from it.
So this table is important for you to know. This is basically the government wants to give incentives for the data for healthcare to have a digital transformation. The government wants to incentivize healthcare professionals to be in a digital transformation mode, and why? If all records are in digital format, what can I do? Deb?
So you can look at patient history, you can also look at reimbursement models in the house, CPT codes.
I can do what we call data analytics. I can do forecasting. I can know about my population.
Yep.
I can know about individual. The support from family and friends can be available when I have everything digitally. And you think about it, This is a no-brainer. Think about how much we use digital in our everyday lives, and healthcare has always been the laggard. So they said, hey, we need a boost, and what's more important than have my population be healthy? And what is also the issue for the government is, we'll see a little bit later on, is the government spends quite a bit of money in trying to make people, sick people, healthier. No brainer. So what they did, in order to get this process going, they broke it down into stages. What do I mean by stages? I mean that you cannot expect everyone overnight to be 100% compliant. So we'll break it up into stages, and if you look at the stages, they start with stage 1, then go to stage 2, and go to stage 3. So when reading this, there's so much information jotted down with its meaning. And then for the exam period, you can have a list of all those acronyms with its meaning. I don't need you to clutter your head with just acronyms, but rather the meanings. So if I look at stage 1 says electron, or the ideas of the certain coding. So that has to be using that information to track clinical conditions. Communicating the information for care coordination processes. What happens many times is someone sees 5 physicians and each physician doesn't know about the other. And what's wrong with that? What's the problem with that?
You get like redundant testing.
Redundant testing. Oh, let me take an x-ray of that again. Let me take another MRI of that. Why buy? What else?
I also feel like if the other physician saw what the previous physician's notes and like results were, they can like use that to like further the
Add on to it.
Yeah.
I always even think about it in learning. In this I don't even know what's, if you're whatever major you are and they're covering something, it should be coordination that I don't have to repeat something. I even do it like even for our own majors in information systems that I expected in another course they would have covered that information, right? Or you get the same, or you get repetition. So it's the same thing, but think about this, I'm not dealing with life and death with you. Okay, so you don't learn that topic, or you heard it 5 times. But think about it in terms of healthcare not being efficient, and you can think about it, initiating reporting of clinical quality measures and public health information. Here's on the public, and using information to engage patients and their families. So say in stage 1, we'll incentivize you with money if you follow, if you will then digitize and use electronic health care for those purposes. Find ways to engage the family. That makes sense. That's a no-brainer, right? You have an older member of your family and they're never checking their blood levels or their glucose levels, or taking medication properly, or going to their appointments on time. And how can you do it? So you can think, now if we look at healthcare, there's a lot of apps and there are a lot of devices. Like what? There's ended up to be a lot of wearables, ways to see if you've taken your medication right, when you open the bottle, ways in which even, who bought PillPack? Was that Amazon? So basically, what is PillPack? Anybody know?
It's like, you like sign up for your, like an online prescription or whatever like that, and by a doctor's approval, they send you pills for the month or something.
Yeah, what else? Look at, when in doubt, what?
Look it up.
Look it up. What are you expecting me to work so hard? I had Labor Day, I had all that rain, I had all those plans, right? So what do we find? PillPack. Roy? Everybody's smiling at me, expecting me to work. What is this?
the only online pharmacy. Amazon.
Amazon bought them, right?
Yeah.
If Amazon bought them, why do you think they bought them? They want to get into healthcare. I think
They wanna get
everything
into
else is
everything.
disrupting, right? So they're gonna get into healthcare and basically give you packs. So if somebody has to take, a patient has to take 6 pills a day, I need all those 6 pills, right? Find those bottles and everything. What do? They pack it in a little packet. Hey, this is day 1 packet. Open it up and take it off. Simple little thing, isn't it?
Yep.
What did they sell it? What did Amazon buy them for? Anybody look it up? I don't even remember. What
Under
did-
1 billion.
Huh?
Under 1 billion.
Oh, $1 billion, not a bad thing. It doesn't sound like so high tech, right? Put a bunch of pills, put them in a little package, right? Seal it and send it. $1 billion. So when we get to, when Dr. Gerst comes here, I want you all to be his friend, because when you come up with ideas, he can find funding. You know, I mean, he's doing, when he tells me the amounts of money that he does on these deals, you know? I don't know how many zeros there are, but there are quite a few. So, and he's willing to invest. So think about this. Stage 2, we're gonna say, okay, you've gotten the basics. Now I want you to concentrate on interoperability. And what is that? It's called HIE. And later on we'll know it just because we're used to it. Nobody was born with all these acronyms. What's HIE stand for? And you say, I don't know, you know that's not good enough for me. And you have thank God, when you have a computer. In your mind, you want to do it. But what's HIE?
Health information exchange.
Health Information Exchange. Look it up, whatever it is, in your paper, in your book, in your computer, whatever. Health Information Exchange. And of course that's going to be essential, especially in the United States, because we've been notorious for not being able to easily exchange information. And can you imagine going to a bank and saying, I want to make a bank transfer? Someone lives in California, and they said, what bank are they? And I said, I don't know, and I don't care. I want to get this remittance to this person, right? You don't care what bank they are. But here, I want to get my health record. It's a whole makeshift problem here. Increased requirements for e-prescribing. Of course, all my prescriptions should be electronically. Incorporating lab results should be there in one location. Electronic transmission of patient summaries across multiple settings, and more patient-controlled data. That I have control of my data, and I can allow others to use it. And later on, for best practices, later on, people are talking about them paying me to use my data for other studies. Doesn't it make sense? So that's stage 2. In stage 2, you basically think about interoperability. These kind of things. Stage 3 is improving the quality, safety, and efficiency, leading to improved health outcomes. Because what they found is, which was amazing in the United States, is that healthcare a lot of the money and the problems were that people made a lot of errors. And there's something called, and we want to be more efficient, and we want to have better health outcomes. And as I say over and over again, technology should give us better health outcomes. Technology for technology's sake is not worth it. Decision support for national high priority conditions. Decision support meaning I have models that will help the physician or the healthcare provider. What's an example of decision support systems is basically having a computer program advising me of alerts, telling me that there's a contradiction, telling me that there's new research. Patient access to self-management tools. And access to comprehensive patient data through patient-centered HIE. HIE again, Emma, is what?
Oh, health information exchange?
Health what?
Information exchange?
State time. And improving population health. So this is almost population health, this is interoperability, and this is basically get that data in and at least coordinate the care. And there was a number of incentives. Now, most hospitals and institutions and even physicians and so forth have been in a number of these stages, right? There's incentive programs. I'm not going to go through these, but the idea that they're going to incentivize for federal governments, those that are in Medicare, Medicaid, because they're government owned. And the Affordable Care Act, what was the whole purpose of the Affordable Care Act? Was to improve patient information, patient care, improve health population, and reduce the per capita cost of health care. And we have something, we have another acronym. God forbid we should miss another acronym. There's one called MIPS, M-I-P-S. Merit-based incentive patient systems that will replace value-based programs, including the EHR incentive program, will use a set of performance measures divided into categories to calculate a score between 0 and 100 for eligible professionals. Each category of performance will be weighted. So they're basically, it's almost like instructor evaluations, but this is in those eligible professionals. What's the quality of care? What's the advancing care information? What are the clinical practice improvements? And that's how I'm going to get paid. So these are our basics of the MIPS. And interoperability efforts. Can you imagine that these are the efforts for interoperability? We should be ashamed that we're in 2018, we're talking about this. That, aren't you a little embarrassed? I mean, we can go on to using, artificial intelligence, talking about robotics, talking about Internet of things to be able to improve healthcare, and we have to have a situation where they say we want to entice people to exchange information. Where in the world have they been? Think about it. When I tell you Google it, right? That we should be able to share from the whole world, right? Studies, we should be able to get data, right? And here is, I'm embarrassed. 2015 to 70, send, receive, find, and use priority data domains to improve health and healthcare quality. At CMS, what's CMS?
Center for Medicaid Services.
Yeah, Center for Medicare Services, right? So CMS will administer 30% of all Medicare payments to providers through alternative methods, right? Here, expand interoperability, health IT, and users to improve health and lower cost. No brainer. 2021, that's a long time, a learning health system enabled by nationwide interoperability. The federal government will use value-based payment models as the dominant mode. They're going to create a learning health system. So these three, send and receive. Send and receive data. Unbelievable. I tried the other day to get a healthcare record from doctors. And they said, well, the other parts are, when were you last time here? Well, I don't know, 4 years ago. Oh, that may be in our archives. It'll take 2 or 3 weeks. What? Well, it may be in boxes, and it may not be digitized. Maybe in a folder. What year are we? Who am I talking to? And then finally they did me a favor, and I said, well, I know part of the record's online. Oh, then maybe they'll email it to you in 4 days. and this is Baptist, it's, one of the best, right? Can you imagine the other ones? And they actually, asked me. Okay, the other thing that you need to do, put this in your notes. See this? This is my question. HL7 stands for what? Health level 7, and then we say, who cares, right? That we don't want to be in a cocktail party saying, oh, you know that HL7, not good. And somebody says, who cares? Okay, health level 7, founded in 1987. Health level 7 International is a not-for-profit, ANSI accredited standards developing organization dedicated to providing a ... And my idea is, what's ANSI accredited standards, and what is it, and who cares? And there's even a Twitter feed about that. Can you imagine how bored you must be to read the HL7 Twitter feed? Oh my God. We could figure out something better to do at night, right? Than reading the HL7 Twitter feed, Okay, there's more exciting things. Okay, so we have introduction to HL7, and the idea is this. I'll tell you simple. Look at all this wording here. If you can even figure this out, good luck. And then they have, see all these standards and EHR types, right? And normalize. Let's do this real quick, and then I'll tell you what it is. HL7 example. Let's see. Remember I talked about data? Who remembers that? Mentioned data, right? What's the problem with data? Is that one is your data and my data may not have the same standards. What you call social security number, she calls it patient number. And they're calling it something else. So I need standards. HL7 gives standards for data to be processed and shared. So let's think you go into a hospital. Where do you go first into a hospital? James. I enter a hospital, I'm not feeling well. I said, James, take me to doctors right here. We entered, you come with me. He said, Dr. Rashi, she doesn't feel good. I'll walk with her into it. And where do you think the first place we'll go?
The emergency room?
Emergency room, and who we're gonna see in the emergency room? Kelly, who we're gonna see?
You go to like someone on a computer who's just gonna like print out a wristband for you and ID you as like the
Okay,
next
and what are they gonna
patient.
ask me?
Your birthday and your
And
name.
what else are they gonna ask me? My name, my social, right, my birthday, next of kin, what else are they gonna ask me? My insurance, right? It's all my, next of kin, all my insurance information, right? And hopefully, right, if I had my record, they don't, but sometimes I don't even know if they're saying, you gotta fill this out here, James, I'm not feeling well, he has to fill it out in paper, and he's gonna, and some clerk in back are typing in it, or I'm gonna give it to them, give them all my IDs, and then they say, you know what, I don't know, you have to go to radiology. So James, he's so nice, he said, Dr. Rutch, go into this wheelchair, we'll wheel you into radiology, right? So what does radiology need? It needs to then do, hey, how are you? We're gonna start moving it in the same way. Is this gonna be easier? You sit here, you want there? Sit here, it's easier. Right, they're gonna move in the same way, they're gonna take my data. So what my HL7 is gonna do, my HL7 then will set up the standards in what we call, based on what we call XML. XML stands for extensible markup language. Very good, Stephen. Extra credit. Okay, so we'll have then the extensible markup. And what is a markup language? Markup languages came way before the internet. I'm going to borrow this for a second, okay? A thick book, heavy. Basically, it even started with standard general markup language. So if I look at this text, it doesn't even matter, right? I look at the front here. What do I have? I have a markup language. It all's going to have text, but what is this going to be? It's going to be based on certain font size. Certain things are going to be bold, right? Here it's going to be bold. Here I'm going to have a header, right? Sometimes I'm going to have a footer. All of that is done by what we call tags, T-A-G-S. And what are the tags? Basically, you can see this is one tag. This is another, the ending tag, the beginning tag, the ending tag that we have. In this case, we combine it. You see there where it says XMLNS, that means namespace, but who cares? But it's basically starting off and saying it's describing my data. And how did I have a description of my data? I've had a lot of markup languages throughout the way that we look at it, and we have one that some of you have seen before. It's called HTML, right? And HTML stands for what? Guys, let's move it. Right.
Hypertext markup language.
What, and the ML is the same, right, James? The ML stands for what? Markup language. What is the markup language? I have text, and I'm going to mark it up to display something. In the olden days, before even the web browsers came about, I had a markup language just on a book, right? To tell me the bold, to tell me the font, to tell me the size, right? And there are markup languages for the publishers to do that. Now there's a markup language on a web browser, so anytime I go to any website, right, that what I can do, you see this? I'm on a website right here. I'm in the courses, right? Whose was this? This was Ricky's way. You see what it says right down here? Chelsea, what does it say here?
View page source.
View page source. If I go to view page source, right? If I go to view page source, this looks very much. This is hypertext markup language. You can put in your notes here. Hypertext markup language means the markup language for a web browser, the look and the feel of what a web page looks like. Yes. James.
So I guess like two questions.
Yes.
Is XML only used in healthcare?
No. I'll get to XML in a minute.
And HL7
Is a version of XML that's used in healthcare.
HL7. Oh, so it's a version of it. It's not what develops it.
Right. Well, it's a version of it, and there's converters and there's products that do it. But the whole purpose is to tell about my data, to be able to standardize my data, that I'll be able then to share my data with other providers, with other software programs, that I can be able to take that data. So what we have, I just want to show you with the HTML. You see on line 3 there, it says the language is English in the U.S. You see where it says a header, and you say here the title. What does the title say? Emma, I think conference software, right? Somebody wrote that. You guys wrote that, right? Conference software, right? And then it has some meta tags, to be able to search for, and then it has some script. And you see the script, what does the script say here in line 15? Huh? JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language is used on a web browser to basically do the logic of a program. Think about the logic of the program is that if you're on any website and they're going to be able to see what browser you're using, or if you're going to use it, remember when you're going to put in a credit card, it'll ask you for which type of credit card you are, and all the processing part of it is using JavaScript. It's a logic programming language that's script-based, meaning that it works over a browser. But the HTML was designed when the browser came into being. Markup language, instead of marking it up in a book for my general markup language, it used the markup language to make it look nice on a website. Everybody with me? So it's the coloring, it's the paragraphs, I can see tables, everything like. Just think about Word, right? To make Word look better, right? With my font size and so forth, I'm just using Word's markup, basically. Think about that. Like Word's markup language, I'm doing that. Everybody with me? So now what they did, this is basically, think about it as like an attribute. This is viewing my data. How my data looks. I'm not changing my data with an HTML. What am I doing? I'm changing the look and the feel. And then you as an end user can write the conferencing software, right? You were doing that, and then you can change the fonts, and then the HTML markup language. There are people that know it, but now you don't even have to know it. There's computer programs that will convert how you want it to look and feel to this markup language. That's the look of the data. Now what I'm talking about is the data itself, the type of data it is. I want to find all those patients that are above a certain age, that are Hispanic, that have diabetes. That's about my data, not the look and the feel of the data. So what they created was this extensible markup language. It had nothing to do with healthcare. It was a markup language just to tell me about the data, not what's inside the data. And I give it tags. So I can have XML. Let's say we were a book publisher. We're all going to go to a book conference. We're a book publisher. Tell me what tags I would have as a book publisher. What tags would be important for me? Let me take this book. Emily, I'm borrowing that. What would be important to know about this book? The ISBN, right? The ISBN, what else? Excellent. So the ISBN would be a tag for the book publishing company. So XML, HTML, you can put this in your notes, HTML is predefined. Meaning that somebody took this HTML head and TR and all these others, they're predefined tags. Like head is one, like the header, and then I just end it with head here. It's a tag, predefined. XML, you can put it, it's extensible, meaning that it's user defined. I can make my own XML tags based on my own industry, based on my own interests. So my XML for a publisher, one tag would be ISBN. What would be another tag? Cindy, what would be another tag?
Data publication.
Data publication. What else?
Title.
Title. What else?
Author.
Author. All of those would then be, for the book publishing, it would be completely different, right? If I were a grocery, it would be completely different. So basically, industries can have their own. So going back to yours, James, HL7 is an extension of SEC. All of those are going to be, so I can find all those stocks between $10 and $12 that have gone up in the past month, 10%. I can find that out by those tags based on the industries. I have something called XBRL, it's for the business reporting language, extensible. Every time if I'm a publicly traded company, I have to file with the Securities and Exchange Commission. They want the same format so we can use those tags. Everybody with me? So that's the whole big thing, you know, where they're throwing all this stuff at you. It's just tags. The HTML is how it looks on a browser. The rest of the XML, I can make my own user-defined tags. Anybody ever see, what's Excel? What's the extension of Excel? Tell me what the extension of Excel is. What's the extension? Or PowerPoint, doesn't matter. Give me PowerPoint's extension. When you say the PowerPoint, what? PPT, what's the last one? X. What's Excel? XLS X. What do you think this X stands for? Now, what do you think X stands for? What do you think the X stands for? Extensible. So if you could go in, let's say you were a company, right? And you merged with another company. And you had all your PowerPoints and you had your logos in the bottom. And you want now the new one. You could then basically get the XML version of PowerPoint and write a little script and say everywhere that it said Cindy's company, it now says James and Company. And for all the PowerPoints, then you could change everything throughout it. It's extensible. They wanted to make it extensible. You don't know that. You don't care. But that X is basically, I'll show you later, you can make a PowerPoint, you can just zip it, or an Excel, and you can read all the properties and that are in that Excel sheet that you can think about. We can do that later after we read the Twitter feed, right, of HL7, right? We can do something like that. Okay? So does that make sense? Yes? So we know what we need to do for next week? Oh, I need to do the next week's quiz, right? Let me do that. Then we'll take a real short break, and I am so excited that we have Dr. Gerst here to share with me his words of wisdom, right, Stephen, and I can get you up and running. Let me just get the quiz up online, and then we'll take a short break, and we'll do this. Yes, Danny?
Can you just clarify what you want us to do for next week?
Yes, I will. Let me make first the quiz. Thanks first. So I'm going, okay, so let me just go to our regular session, which is this one. I'm going to go to my assignments. I'm going to go to my quizzes. You should have, okay, so chapter 3 we'll do for next week. My assignments.
Sunset's closed. Wait, is that? Everything in Sunset will close soon. These are gonna knock it down and go into part of that, so check.
I would cry. I want it so badly right now.
Is it still there?
Yes,
It's still there?
it's still there.
How far wild was it? Everything in Sunset. Everything's closing in Sunset. I don't
So
know
we'll
that
do
they're really
2
partners.
at 10. Can you check to see if it's available?
But not great. I got that shirt.
Yes?
But the one in New York City.
So we'll do chapter 3. I want to make sure that everyone then has done their web conferencing as a group. Also, if you have web conferencing that costs, that are like 14-day limits, find some that are free for longer periods of time. And then what I want you to do is find in the healthcare sector,
That's what she said. Yeah. That's how she is too. She's like, I'm like, just pay us. I'm like, take that fee. Yeah. Yeah. That's weird. Yeah.
It is though.
I have to go out and buy like, not slacks, but like
Yes.
nicer khakis than I have. Because I have like the top party, so it's like, I've just had khakis since high school and they're so comfy, so forgiving tourists are great, but like, I need to get a new pair. Oh, it's right here. That's awesome. I agree. Such. Yeah, I'm gonna check each other. I texted Brian, but I want. I finished my article somewhere tonight. My only class tomorrow's at 11. But I'm just in it. But I'm just wake up at 8 and study for 2 hours for it.
I was just tired. I can't do that.
folks, for our next time, we need to do the finish up the web conferencing. Then what we're gonna be doing is looking at the healthcare stock sectors. I want you to find which stock sectors look to be doing the best and list the 10 best companies that have done well this past year. Write down their names and their symbols, and then we're gonna do an exercise with that next week.
Wait, just 10 best companies in general?
For the healthcare sector.
Oh, for healthcare sectors?
Yeah. And then, download that data and we'll do some exercises with it next week.
So you want the data of their companies too?
Yep. Okay, yeah.
Where does the list go?
And, put it in a spreadsheet.
What Amazon account?
If they're getting into the health sector, yeah. But first, let's even get off of Amazon for a while. We'll look at it, but they're getting more and more. Okay, folks, let's take a short break, and then I'll get, Stephen, what do you need to get set up? Just this? Wow, great. So we'll set you up, and let's just stretch and then come back. So what's going on?
Is there a waterfall place that you're talking about? Oh, I really like down, no, it's right down the end of the hall.
I have to pay, I'm gonna wait, but I had it. Wait, so I can't. Thanks. She said, wait, we'll just do this together. Put it in a spreadsheet. I think we should just put it in a spreadsheet and upload it to our.
I actually make
I can't see you do everything right, but let's do that on like Friday.
So how are we doing?
I have more tonight.
Yeah. True, just put all of them down and help them find it, yeah.
I have a.
Tell me how to find it. Okay. And we can just make one, but like call me when you're doing it, so I can do it too.
Huh?
I didn't go through.
What, me? It's gonna be the same for everyone. Yeah, but like I want to have time.
Oh, you mean that? I understand, yes, maybe we'll do the screen share.
Because they will, don't need to wait for my response. I'm so happy.
I'm excited.
Me too. You're excited for me.
I'm excited too. What is it? Happy excited. I'm so excited. Yeah.
No, that's where we graduate.
For next year, right? If it, for a but like, I would be like,
Thank you. Okay.
And then we'll see if I can.
Let's start.
You're gonna get. You don't.
Okay, what do you need, a board, or what do you need? Okay, folks, let me even, get everybody started here, and that way we can do it. I am so happy to introduce you to Dr. Stephen Gerst. I'll have him introduce himself, but you can see here he has more, little MDs, MBAs, MPH, and CHE. What's CHE?
Oh, board certified medical management.
Okay, so we got another one. Okay, I don't even know all these, okay? We need a little sheet just for all his name, the chief medical officer, and now it's telemetrics.
Yeah. Can you go full screen?
Yeah, sure. I'll get these in a full slideshow.
Are we waiting for anybody else?
No, let's just go on. When they
All
come,
right.
they come.
So how much time do we have?
Let's do about 25 minutes. That's good? Like, let's even do like 20 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all right, so we're gonna have to go fast here.
Okay.
So
And I'll
first
be
of
in
all-
charge.
First of all, I gotta say, I wish I was taking your class, because I never learned any of that stuff.
Okay, so
Just
good.
taught.
You're always welcome,
So you're
right?
very, very lucky.
He's always welcome to our class. And notice that we're gonna be broadcasting too, so you can then come from the outside and join us anytime when you're on the road. If you're in Washington or Austin, one of my favorite cities, you can join us as well there. Okay, good.
Okay. Come on in, have a seat, not too expensive. Let me see, all right, well, I'm honored to be here with you. Every time I come to Sarah's class, I learn a lot, and she's really terrific, she knows her stuff. So, who wants to work in the largest industry in the world? Any of you guys? Did you know it's the largest industry in the world? Okay, we're gonna go through some numbers, but how much do we spend on US healthcare in this country?
Almost 20%.
Almost 17.5% of the GDP right now, going to 19.5%. How much is that? How big is our economy?
28 trillion?
14 trillion. Close. Off by a little. But good question. So, and we're the largest economy in the world. So this is the largest industry in the United States, 20%. So 1/5 of everything that we make here, 1/5 of everything you make goes to pay for your healthcare costs. Okay? When you make a sweater, when you make a computer, when you ship anything overseas, that's going to pay, 1/5 pays for the employee healthcare costs. So let's shift down here now. Back in 2007, during the Clinton administration, where we had Hillary Care and all that sort of stuff, we had a big problem because we were at 2.3 trillion and we were expected to go to about $4 trillion. That was a huge piece of the economy back then. All right, and so what happened in 2010 in order to try and stem the cost? Anybody? Yes, ACA. And what's the biggest component of the ACA besides the insurance piece? Not the mandate, but what did physicians do? What did it do? Ever heard of it? Accountable care organizations? ACOs?
Yeah.
All right, so basically, what we did was we got physicians to actually organize themselves into LLCs, limited liability corporations. All right, because up until that point, trying to get physicians to do anything together was like herding cats. Everybody wanted to be an individual doctor, practice their own, didn't want anybody to tell them what to do. Once you set up accountable care that was paid for by Medicare, and there was an incentive where you're gonna share the savings, okay, that changed the ballgame. Because when I came into, well, I was with, I guess, a little bit of background. I'm a physician, trained at Columbia in New York. I cross-registered in the business and law schools, and I started my career at Premier, which is 4,000 hospitals now. It's the largest group purchasing organization in the country. Went from there on the hospital side to the insurance side with AIG, largest insurer in the world. These are all publicly traded companies now. And worked for Crawford & Company, also New York Stock Exchange, where we were the largest insurance intermediary in the world, 700 offices worldwide. handled all the workers' comp, property and casualty, the adjusters. Something happens down here, it's probably a Crawford adjuster that came out and assessed the value of your car to pay you back. All right? I started the PPO business there because we had all this workers' comp, and we would get discounts from the hospitals and
You wanna
doctors.
tell them what PPO is?
Preferred Provider Organization. Okay, that's where you contract with doctors for a discount in exchange for volume, and you change the benefit structure for the employee, say, okay, 20% copay if you go in-network, 40% copay out of pocket if you go out of network, and all kinds of variations on that. All right, so that came about, and if you add in utilization review, which is where you have to check with an insurance company doctor for what the length of stay is gonna be for the patient, you basically have what's called an HMO. Now, the HMO started first, but we kind of split this out for self-insured employers who didn't want HMOs at the time. Problem, and what happened was, when I came into this in my next move was I got hired by our governor, Rick Scott, at Columbia HCA to build that company. And I was president of their managed care division and put together the second nationwide PPO in the country. I had 1,200 hospitals, 120,000 doctors, all feeding in, and we built it around the the HCA hospitals on the for-profit side. Then when I went to PricewaterhouseCoopers, I was regional medical director, and the first assignment that I got was, why are we using all these utilization review and PPO management techniques in commercial insurance, but not in Medicare, not in government? We should propose that, because when you go into Big Four consulting, Big Six, Big Four consulting, you have to have an edge on the competition. So I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers, we were competing against Deloitte, Accenture, and some others, but we wanted to have an edge. So I wrote the first plan to create Medicare Advantage, which is Medicare HMOs. Now there's a third of the Medicare population is enrolled in Medicare Advantage PPOs. We hired Newt Gingrich, we got it through Congress, and that's what we have. That meant 70% are not, okay? And we tried to figure out why. So we found out that really the incentives for the doctors were not there to push their patients in. They weren't supposed to be pushing their patients in, but that's what we were experiencing. And so two guys, Mark McClellan, the Harvard guy who's head of the FDA and then head of CMS, and another guy from Dartmouth named Elliot Fisher, whose father's Harvard Law, who wrote the book Getting to Yes, said, hey, let's find a way to incentivize the doctors, the primary care, who aren't making the money like the surgeons are, and share the savings with them, because they know the system, and right now the system is rigged so that the more volume they push through the hospital, the more money that's charged through the hospital, the better perks they get, the better offices, the better this, the better that. Okay, let's change the incentive and make it so that it's not the hospital in control, but Medicare is in control. And so that's what we did, and those are called accountable care. So now what's happening? Okay, next slide. Okay, and the ACA worked for a while. It stemmed the cost from what was going to $4.4 trillion to still around $3 trillion. But we're still here. You can see right about 17, we're up and around $3 trillion. But guess what? We're adding another $2 trillion a year to the healthcare system over the next 7 years. We're gonna have to push that stuff.
Yeah.
And these are different cost estimates from the federal government. Now, let's take a look at this. This is what we're looking at by way of Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP programs, which are children's insurance, other public insurance, private insurance, employer-sponsored insurance. How much did we spend on national defense last year? This year, what's the budget for national defense? Any guesses? $681 billion. $1 billion is the Trump budget for 2019.
It's not even $1 trillion?
Not even $1 trillion. Medicare is more than the national defense budget. Last year was the first year Medicare actually surpassed national defense in expenditures. That is the largest insurance company in the world. It's the largest industry in the world. Medicaid's close behind. Look at private insurance. Private insurance is twice that. Employer insurance. Every one of these categories is bigger than the national defense budget. That's a startling number, isn't it? Okay, next slide. All right, so we're going to 20%, you were right, 20% of GDP, and this is the GDP. This is the healthcare GDP, and this is everything else. So as healthcare goes, the rest of the economy goes. Okay? That's a problem, because you know why? You guys are business students, right?
Business and, pre-med,
Business and pre-med.
and health
For the
science.
business students, students, okay, healthcare is an operating cost. It's a cost of goods sold, right? It's what you have to pay your workers to keep them healthy, to produce stuff. That's driving the cost of everything else, right here. That's a big problem. We have to find a way to help that one. Next slide. All right, next slide. And so, what's this one? So this is our per capita expenditures, projected to grow from 36% to 55% per person through 2026. Tremendous opportunity for you. Tremendous amount of money floating into there. Everything you're learning in Sarah's class, that's a job. Okay, that's a job somewhere in this industry. Next. Okay, look how much we spend compared to all
This is always amazing to me.
the other
And,
countries.
and you would think we would have the best outcomes, right?
We don't.
Right.
We don't, and I can tell you that because.
And who has the best outcomes, do you know?
Well, France is actually rated as having the best outcomes for the money. But I can tell you that I spent a lot of time in Asia, doing international medical travel for the Singapore government. They have really good healthcare. Now, you know why? Because it's a cash-based system and the hospitals are responsible for the cost of care. All right? So, here's an example. Anybody here have a car?
Yeah.
Everybody? Okay? When your carburetor or something breaks down in your car and you take it to the repairman, you expect it to be fixed, right? And what do? You pay them for the fix, right? You get out and it's still clunking, or it's something, it's not working right, the way you paid for it. What do?
Yeah, I'm in 312, I need that.
What do? You take it back. Who pays for the change? Do you have to pay for the change again? If they didn't fix it right? Right? Or do they have to absorb the cost? Generally, they have to absorb the cost. In medicine, cut off the wrong leg, all right? Hospital gets paid. Bring the patient back, cut off the right leg, hospital gets paid. Medicare pays, the insurance company. Doctor may get sued, all right, for doing that, or the hospital may get sued and their insurance company picks it up and it's syndicated out and the risk is low, okay? But they don't have to
But then the
necessarily.
rates go up too, don't they?
And the rates go up and it gets passed on to the employer, all right? The vicious cycle in the system has driven this cost way up because of the way it's working, or not working effectively. You go to Singapore, you go to China, you go to the Asiatic countries, okay? India, for those people who are from India, those hospitals, if they don't fix it right, you go back, they absorb the cost. So as a result, when I walked in 20 years ago, or 15 years ago to Singapore hospitals that are affiliated with Duke or some of these other major health centers, Cleveland Clinic, we were building hospitals there for Cleveland Clinic. We'd have 3 layers of glass with chlorhexidine and ultraviolet light, blue light to kill bacteria in every room because the hospital didn't want to be responsible for keeping the patient in any longer than they were being paid for. They didn't want an infection. Completely opposite in the United States. U.S., that's Singapore. Singapore and Malaysia. Malaysia hospitals are excellent and cheaper. The Singapore government actually sends their patients to Malaysia. It's right across the water, but it's half the price. So, interesting, yeah. All right, now, we're talking about a trade war on the Trump side, right? You've all heard about that. You watch the market fluctuate every day, up and down. Is Canada in the NAFTA or is out? What's going on with China? And the market just jumps up and down on the trade wars. All right. You know where the trade war problem is? We have a 15% tariff inherent in our system between what the United States pays, the percentage of GDP, and what China pays. Okay. And these are the other developed countries, but China and Mexico are down here at 6.2 and 5.4. There's at least 10% differential in there, right? Between our goods and services. Right. Between our goods and services, next. That's what we have to combat. And look at this compared to other countries, right? Medicare. That's
So this is
people
the
turn
age, right?
55 Medicare. All right, next. So what do? We launched the ACOs, I just told you about that. What we did was we took claims, the government takes claims data going back 3 years for every single doctor, because the doctors have to get together 5,000 patients and submit to be an accountable care organization as a group. And then CMS sets a baseline and says, okay, we're looking over here and saying, okay, based on this, let's say you've got a 12% increase in your average cost per year. We want you to just not even reduce it, just reduce the rate of growth by 4%. Okay? If we do that, we'll set that baseline, that's a target. And then if you come in anything under it, we'll share the cost with you. So that's a shared risk model. And it's working rather well. Okay? Next slide. So this is the Congressional Budget Office. It's right on target. We're at about 30 million people that are now enrolled in ACOs. All right? And with ACOs, it's not like you have to sign up. Your doctor signs you up. You don't even know you're in an ACO. But your doctor's at risk for your care. And they have to be more efficient. And it's also based on outcomes. Next slide. Thanks. All right. So where's the money at? The money's in the hospital side. Inpatient, outpatient, right here. 50% of the dollars. Professional services is doctors, pharmacy, you hear a lot about, and other. Okay, now, this is your assignment for next week. You just did it. All right, so everybody take pictures of these slides, because here's what you're looking at. Healthcare equipment and supplies. This is what we do in investment banking. I do investment banking also.
Yeah, you can take a picture of this.
I work with a private equity firm. We've got about 1.5 billion in assets under management in New York. And I work as an investment banker. That folks just calling now, what happens to the deals? All right, so working on about 22 different companies right now. But this is how we buy and sell companies. All right, and your basic goal, a lot of you are going to go entrepreneurial. You're going to start off with a small company that you hope to raise money for, and then build it and sell it and make a ton of money. All right, now when you do that, when you get into that, you're traded. Have you done multiples?
No, not yet.
All right, you're basically traded on revenue multiple and profit, EBITDA. You know about EBITDA, right? Business students, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So that's how your companies are valued. They're valued 3 ways. Either a multiple of revenues, a multiple of profit, EBITDA, because that's what you're buying. You're buying the profit stream when you buy a company going forward into the future. Or if you don't have profits and you don't have this, you do what's called a discounted cash flow model, weighted average cost of capital. You combine it and you do projections. Okay, so we end up having to do a lot of those with internal rates of return. But look at where you want to be. Healthcare technology, 26% time.
That's the highest one, isn't it?
26. Never seen anything this high. That's where it's going. Pharmaceuticals half that. Biotech 15. New category just this quarter. And this is the latest. This is as of last week. So you got healthcare equipment and supplies at 18, healthcare technology at 26, and life sciences. So when Sarah says, find me the most profit, what's the trading multiple on the stock market for publicly traded? What's the multiple of revenues that you're paying for when you buy their stock? Or what's the multiple of profits? And these are their. So those are some good companies. McKesson, Cardinal, this is healthcare distribution. You see, this block is about 9.2. Healthcare equipment and supplies is 18. It's twice as much. Next one. Here's some others. All right, pharmaceuticals. Everybody thinks pharmaceuticals is great, and it is. I own a pharma company. We're raising about 30 million actually tonight in Korea for one that's affiliated where we take out University of Miami products, and so we're doing it for UM. But you've got Pfizer, you've got Eli Lilly, you've got Bristol Myers. This is a whole topic unto itself. If you ever want me to talk about that, I will. And then biotech. So Amgen, Gilead, Celgene, Biogen. You've heard all these companies. These are the trading multiples.
What are they trading now, the biotech?
Next one. So healthcare technology. So I work with Cerner company. That's an EMR company. Epic is what University of Miami is on. So we currently have another company we currently have the Cerner contract for remote patient monitoring and chronic care management, which is where everything's going. And that's being rolled out this year. Athena Healthcare, that was started by 2 Harvard Business School guys who had a project they had to do. And one of them ended up as the CTO of the United States to fix Obamacare. All right, the other one just got Jonathan Bush. You may have read about him. He's Bush's nephew. All right, he just got kicked out by an activist investor, but he paid him $7 billion to do this. All right, it was trading. Look at the revenues on this. Equity value for Athena was $5 billion. Activist investors just paid $7 billion to get rid of the CEO, take it over. Okay, but they started it right out of a class like this. If you look at all the other industries, you'll see what's the big one. Biotech, 280. This is 10-year average, 284%. What else do you see that's high? What's this? Healthcare providers and services. You know, you look at other stuff like diversified consumer services, negative. Pharmaceuticals, 88%. Food and staples, 100. Okay, these are the big ones. Healthcare technology. Next. Here's where your jobs are. Right here. This is from Deloitte. We're going from 364 billion to 514 billion just in med tech. Next. All right. Here's your market. What's the market? 5% of the population accounts for 50% of the cost of dollars. That's inpatient.
Amazing. This
percentage of the population, 45%, is chronic care management. All right, that is another $1 trillion. That's 48%. Everything you hear about, Fitbits, you know, Garmin's, all this kind of stuff, is 3% of the market. It may be 50. It's what we call the worried well. It's 50% of the population, but it's only 3% of the revenues.
Because all the costs are up when you're really near
Right.
death.
Exactly. All right, and this is the group. So this is where multiple chronic conditions come in. The older you get, the more likely you are to have more. How many will you have? Next slide. Look at that. 35% of people in the United States have 5 or more chronic conditions. All right, diabetes, asthma, obesity, hypertension. We're all on drugs for these things. Fortunately, we're living longer because of them. Okay, but if you look at these numbers, 71% of every dollar in healthcare goes to multiple chronic conditions. That's a big market. Next. Okay, according to Harvard, this is from the Chan School, over the next 20 years, it'll be $46 trillion that'll be spent in chronic care management. Where do you want to go? That's where the money is, right? What did Dillinger say? Follow the money? What do we want to do? We've got to figure out a way to curtail that. So we want to do what's called, this is your friend Mark. Mark Blatt was the medical director, chief medical officer for Intel. Good friend of Sarah's. That's how I got involved in this. He brought us in. We talked together. Okay, and so he came up with this called the leftward shift. Right now, if you're in the hospital, between a med-surg bed or an ICU bed, cost is between $1,000 and $10,000 a day. We want to leverage technology from the hospital through the step-down units into assisted living and nursing homes and into the home. And then when you get it into the home.
This is where the next step is gonna be,
Right.
in my opinion, is that whole idea of mobile. Because people can stay in their home, you can then monitor them virtually, you can get better care. You won't be going in the hospitals and getting MRSA and all the other.
Right, and it's happening right here, right now. So we were hired, my partner from Epic, who's the medical director at Epic, and we were hired by ADT several years ago. 10 million homes already.
You know what ADT is, like this home security. You know,
Right.
you think about.
What are they doing in healthcare? Smart homes. Why? Because they've already got sensors in the home. You can monitor falls. You can monitor everything in the home. You can monitor Nest. You can monitor the temperature. People know when they're in and out. What do you want to monitor? Their health. And how do you want to do it? You want to tie it into the local hospital. So that, and I saw this, and there are spec homes right in this area, and I'm under NDA, so I can't mention any names. But I saw the Ring Amazon merger and the Whole Foods merger coming 3 years ago when I was in one of the large home builders around here and went to their spec homes, and you go in with Ring keyless entry. This is before the mergers. You come in and Amazon says, "Hi Sarah, I'm so glad you're home. By the way, I've checked your refrigerator and you're a little low on eggs and orange juice. I decided just to put in the same order for you from Whole Foods. Don't worry, it'll all be delivered via key Okay, reading entry from your from
And
our
then,
Whole
and
Foods
telling me, and then tell me, Sarah, you're home, and how much have you run today? You haven't gotten off your butt, you've been in the classes, you gotta
They'll
do
talk
a
to you.
couple of laps around
They'll
the
talk to you.
track.
And right there in the living room, which looks like, with gold leaf mirror, looks like a mirror in the living room, is actually a Samsung Interactive TV, 9 Interactive TV. And you go and say, Siri or Alexa, you know what? You're right, I didn't run today, I'm not feeling well. Should I call your doctor? Yeah, would you? Boom, on the screen is a local telemedicine doctor from your hospital saying, Sarah, what's wrong? And then what we're saying is, let's put the equipment in the home, wirelessly connected into the electronic medical record system, so it's real-time data, and that's what we're doing right now, okay? So they'll check your blood pressure, you'll check your heart rate, you'll check everything right there next. And you can do it in any way. Now, how much is that worth? This is Goldman Sachs Equity Research from a year or so ago. $395 billion a year, that's how much it's worth, okay? Here's the verticals, remote patient monitoring, telehealth, and behavior modification. Put those three together, that's what you can say. $200 billion a year on remote patient monitoring with $15 billion commercial opportunity. Telehealth, about $100 billion, $12 billion in commercial, and behavioral modification. So we're working in all three of these spaces right now, putting these companies together to try and make a comprehensive platform that can service the Amazon, JP Morgan, Berkshire Hathaway type groups. And I'm under NDA, so I can't tell you the other people that I'm working with that can do this, but they're all big companies that are already in your home.
So we're running a little bit out of time, and if you'd be so kind, after all your travels, if you can come back, I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But can you kind of give us a sense of what your, what are your deals and wheels now? What are you investing in? And just in general, I don't want you to, divulge any NDA, but what are you doing now?
Focused on remote patient monitoring, chronic care management, since that's where the dollars are, as well as technologies that will float into these platforms. Now, I'm also being hired by companies getting into nutraceuticals.
What is nutraceutical?
That is where you have like probiotics and stuff like that. These are companies, again, they're publicly traded companies, so I can't talk about it, but these are companies that, like one of the ones, they want to come up with a concoction of vitamins and amino acids and stuff that you can give before or after surgery. All right? And these are companies that are already in your muscle, your health food, your GNCs, they're already big $300-400 million companies out there that want to develop these lines. So I get into a lot of different things. I mean, people call me all the time for lots and lots of different things, and working with an investment bank out of New York, I get probably a company a day to look at, and I have to sort through it and figure it out. We have another one, a friend of mine from Columbia, who's a doctor, urologist here. We ended up coincidentally both working in international, and he has developed a surgical company called Surgio, or Levion, right, where he's got surgical package pricing. So the doctors come in and they post their prices, a package price for everything. They've negotiated the OR time, on excess OR time with the hospital, where it's unused, so excess capacity, and they get a flat price that they put out there. We're trying to take this to the insurance company and stuff like that, but you'll never guess who's actually paying for this. You want to guess who actually pays for a package price surgical site?
Who?
The device companies.
Oh, 'cause they want to be in
Stryker,
there.
Boston Scientific, they
'Cause they wanna
want
be in
their,
the
they want their devices
to be part of the package.
part of the package, okay, exclusively. So they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
Why? Because right now they're paying detail salespeople to go out with their hips, their artificial hips and everything in their trunk of their cars to service the hospitals. When you can just send it to one company or on demand, just in time for the surgery,
That should do
boom,
well.
you save on labor. That's why in pharma, they used to, up until just a few years ago, the prettiest, brightest, best looking people were hired by the pharma companies to go out and detail, they call it detail, the doctors and bring them drugs and do all that.
Schmooze with them and give them
Boom,
dinners. and
100,000
give 'em-
people got fired within a year because they started looking for different, cheaper distribution mechanisms, okay? This is one of them. So we're working on a lot of innovative technologies.
And are you working on anything, like you used to have the thing with the thermometer, you were doing any development?
Yeah, actually, they've come back And now they've got a deal, they just called me back last week, where they've got a deal with Lenovo and Motorola, and now they're dealing with Samsung and others. And in order to, it's gonna come out as a new Moto Z package on your phone, where you do 5 or 6 vital signs, including blood pressure, temperature, everything, on the back of your phone.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So basically, what he used to have is a thermometer where you just put it next to your head, you don't
It's
even
a
touch it.
non-contact infrared thermometer.
And then this makes so much sense, it'll be on the back of
Right.
your phone.
Right, right. For those
Protect
people who
your-
want that, that's more of a commercial
Yeah.
play. What we're doing is we're taking the same technology and incorporating it into remote patient monitoring. So it's part of the package that we sell, and the buyers are the hospitals who are at risk and the insurance companies who are at risk.
So if I have, my mother comes back from the hospital, then she'll be coming back with the equipment to her house? Is that the idea?
No, we ship it. We order it electronically. We've got the EMR set up so that, say, every patient with congestive heart failure or diabetes who's being discharged that day, a nurse puts a button. It comes electronically by patient number to our warehouses in LA, all right, and we ship it out via FedEx, next day air.
And somebody comes and sets it up?
Nope, it's plug and play. Other companies, you have to do setup and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Ours is plug and play, and then the home health care nurse or the case management nurse at the hospital takes over from there, because it's all electronic. It's all fed in, the data's fed into the hospital electronic medical record system. Every day, the nurses pick up a case and say, call up and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, you didn't take your blood pressure today. We're a little worried about you. Could you do that for us, please?
And then you have some modern new systems to help, and then
Yeah,
you can
and
have
if
their
something's
family
wrong-
be online as well to
Right,
help.
and we send the data to the family too, if they want it, if they opt in. And then what you do is, if the patient is not well, and there's something wrong, we send them to the clinic, not to the ER and not to the ICU. That's what we're trying to avoid, is those hospital costs. And the hospitals are at risk under capitation, ACOs, and what we're calling value-based care is going to right now. You get paid for outcomes, the same way in Singapore and Asia has been doing it for years. You get paid for the outcomes, for the results, not for the volume, not for the procedures. So,
Questions?
I would-
Let's take questions and then we'll,
I have a question. I don't know the answer is, but what's the difference between an MSO and an IPA based on like?
The administrative.
Reimbursement?
yeah, that's good. IPAs tend to be at risk.
Okay.
MSOs tend to manage the risk.
Okay.
So they use the same system.
do you wanna define what those acronyms are then?
Yeah, so
Everyone
IPA
else-
is Independent Physician Association, and
Right.
then MSO is Managed Service Organization.
Right, exactly. Very good. He gets in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, not many people know that, but that's right. So like one of our clients through Anthem, which is 16 Blues plans, called CareMore, they've been using our system for 8 years now, the system. So anybody with congestive heart failure, et cetera, gets one of these systems. They're an IPA group, so they're at risk. Now in California, all the ACOs basically started out of California. Their system is different than every other state. Because in California, the insurance companies cannot contract with the hospitals. They have to contract with an IPA group, who then contracts with the hospitals. So the physicians manage the hospitals
Right.
from outside the hospital on a risk basis. That's an IPA group. Other states, like in Florida and other places, what they do is they try and get physicians together, and then they hire somebody to help administer their group on a risk basis, and that's an MSO service, management service.
I also have another question. I was kind of confused when you were talking about like the tech, when, so you said a patient goes, they have an inpatient, like for example, congestive heart failure, right?
Right.
And you said that part of the EMR system is that in the hospital EMR, they look at who has congestive heart failure, and you would send a device to that patient.
Right.
But isn't the physician's job like 4 days after they get admitted, like admitted out, aren't they supposed to see the
Yeah,
patient
so
themselves?
that's called transitional care management. I got slides in here on that too, but we didn't get to them. Okay, so the government's paying for 2 things. It's paying for chronic care management for 27 different diagnoses. If you have 2 or more chronic conditions expected to last 12 months or more, like diabetes, hypertension, congestive heart failure, COPD, that sort of stuff, they'll pay the doctor or the hospital $43.10 per patient per month. Now, when you have a large practice, that, like Florida Hospital, for example, has a captive, they've got 4,000 admitting doctors, or Jackson, you can look at Jackson. But they've got 400 primary cares, with an average Medicare panel of 2,000 to 3,000, maybe 5,000 patients. 2,000 to 3,000 of those could use this service, okay? When you say there's 400 doctors times 2,000 to 3,000 patients that should have chronic care management and be managed electronically from the home, and multiply that by 12, you're into about $500 million a year in new money for 400 physician groups. All right? So, but people are just starting to catch on to that, even though it's been around for a little while, because the systems haven't been in place. So I'm working with the systems companies to put those systems in place to develop one ecosystem where we can manage it on a risk basis. In other words, if it's the same as the ACO model that I put up there. And this is what I'm working on right now out of several large HMOs, big Blues plans, where we'll go in and say, okay, give us all your data, we have a model right now. And we estimate, based on past experience, in your market with your demographics, how many people we'll find out, we'll go into the claims data and say, how many people have CHF, what are you paying for? How many people have COPD? How many people have diabetes? How many people have asthma? This is what the impact is right now. Now, if we can